This is not Scientologists or Scientology. You can't see me because it's quite dark outside. This is not Dave Kitchens, Juniper Post, South Glenwood, Burbank, California, 91506, USA. This is not one of their manifestations of social manifestations of as well. I can eat a clove of garlic, you can't stop me, man. Anyway, and why does it look so dark? Okay. Well, they've probably done something to the camera. About fasting, well, yes, I have attempted fasting. Not on a Friday, though, not on a regular basis. Everything I do is based upon randomness. And because what they found, or what I found, is anytime you do things regularly through methodology or technique, the really, really, really organized people can take advantage of it. You know what I mean? So I'll tell you about that Taylor Swift song. She is just so sick, in the head, sick in the head, like SIC, not SICKKK, but you could say KKK because I didn't see any coloured kids at any of her shows. I don't care. Let's see. Well, I guess the tile of fasting. Yeah, the longest fast I could do was without smoking or eating. It was maybe 3 days, but it takes so much out of you that, and I'd always get off a fast by drinking a beer or 2 or 3. And beer's sort of different to wine because it goes down quickly. I don't know, the computer was hacked, and so all of the things got no passwords, and none of the passwords I wrote down worked, and so what? Oh, it was when Samantha was, freaking out. She was saying, I'm going down to the Port River someplace. And that was, I think, 1979. And there is a technique, really serious, it really works too, called Scientology. And the idea is to hold down, a wrong number or a false bit of data. And the longer you hold it down, such as Charles Manson is Jesus, the more power it gets. And so they're listed as being at Port Adelaide, only they're not at Port Adelaide. They've been where they are for 50 years. But they still say, we go to Port Adelaide, or we're building a place at Port Adelaide. But they're not, and so they're holding down a bit of false data. Apparently, the Scientology, imagine that, starting a religion based on science fiction, but a science fiction religion. Oh, yeah, apparently, yeah, well, I don't know. I've got no idea. Now, has anybody joined? No, no. Yeah, holding down a bit of false start. Many females practice that technique. Many rock and roll bands practice that technique. Many politicians practice that false technique. Not that I'm for truth, not that I'm for truth. For example, Carlos Castaneda tries to present reality, facts, truth. And I'm not for that necessarily. And, okay, sorry, it's now 6 minutes, 7 minutes, and this is going to be on for at least 4 hours. Oh, I found a way to. And the thing about the state is they'll do anything to recruit you to work with them or for them, not cooperatively or anything like that. And the examples are abundant. Like there's a guy here that the government, the newspapers, long ago, he had a friend named Beverly, and some boarder was staying with them, and the boarder gave me a Moody Blues tape, and then they moved to, I don't know, someplace, McGill or someplace, and so the newspaper reported that the street they lived on was now the police commissioner's name. And of course, that was false starting, because the thing about newspapers is they always lie. And so I can tell you that in the UK, at one stage, there was some social disease or some social society, not in Freemasonry, called fibs, where you join and you even get taught how to tell little white lies or big white lies. Fibs, I declined the offer when they invited me to join the Sacred Society of Fibbers. I heard an audio recording of William Shakespeare's The Tempest, and it's based upon the Shakespeare play called The Tempest. At one time, I did try to write a play or something for screen or actors or more than one person. And, somebody stole that, and I decided not to try that again. But the update of Shakespeare has used part of something I sent the publisher, used some of that and a few other extra additions. And The Tempest, as an audio recording, I thought was good because it was only 2 hours, whereas other Shakespeare audio performances of the plays go on for 4 hours, that sort of thing. There's nothing say. They have audio recordings. New Pope is all about. Why is that? Well, a friend of mine bought a Leo. Was it a Leo car from Leo? Was it a Leo car from Japan? which was sort of like more sane or rational, because the icon was 6 stars, as Australia only has 6 official states plus a territory, and so that's good. It sort of makes, say for example, Rupert Murdoch a couple of months ago saying our 7 stars. And he's got a stable of actors for movies and stuff who were all stars. Must have been 100, 200 stars, that sort of thing. So I don't know. I think he's probably insane, or pretty close to being insane. But he's lived a hell of a long time, and only the bad die young. Only the good people live to be 115. Apparently, that's the creed. Oh, yeah. Okay, so this is, it's not going, it's not working. It's ticking over, but this will probably do what it did the other time, where I can just sit here, leave it on for 4 hours, go to the upload place at YouTube, and only 2 minutes will have been saved. No, it's funny. It's real funny. Now, the thing about some bands is that if they touch you in any way, like Pink Floyd, for example, it's almost impossible to get rid of them, the influence. Other bands don't touch you at all. You know what I mean? I'd say rock and roll's dead. I'd say it's finished. It's over. I did hear some of the Eurovision finalists, and they're sounding sort of, not too bad, but I can't understand what they're talking about because it's all in these various languages, or whatever they are, languages, I suppose. And and they might try to be nice to me or you, but they're way past that here. They're into some kind of sadism. Let's quote a school teacher. That's so deep, so organized, so manipulative. So you could even say anti-Christ, anti-God, so deep. But they are, by the way, supporters of Scientology, I should add. I'd say it's hopeless, caused almost exclusively by Scientology. It started where their science fiction character wrote a book called Fear. The idea being, you must fear me. I'm the author, you must fear me. Which is, taken from Old Testament sort of stuff, I don't know, thousands of years ago. Fear God. And so the result of the science fiction was, I don't know, all that stuff going on. And what they used to do, apparently, is have newsreel shows at picture theatres. They sort of wanted to get rid of actors. And they'd take shots of all sorts of things. And then they make copies and send them to your local picture theatre so you could watch newsreels of, what's going on in the war, or the whore, or the war, the horror, the horror. science fiction. I did once or twice try to write some science fiction, but no, I couldn't do that either. I mean, you'd have to be mad or really sort of, I don't know, to write science fiction. Yeah, it's funny. It certainly is funny. Certainly is funny. It certainly is funny. So that's a piece of false data they've been holding down since, I think, 1979. 79, 89, 99, 2009. That's about 45 years. You know, got your finger on the button and just keep holding that down and until hell freezes over and Mr. DeFreeze will join the Ted Bundy murder thing, you know, and walk up and down, and we'll have I'm in the deep freeze, John Lennon, that sort of thing. One idea they did sort of have, and I don't quite know whether it means anything, is that the stuff they recorded, once the person is no longer alive, is their spirit. So for example, you know, and 200 years from now, you could watch John Lennon or Paul McCartney, and you know, he's got no imagination at all. Paul McCartney or whatever, Yoko Ono got quite a good imagination. You know, 200 years from now, you can watch it and they'll say, these are not alive, these you're watching their spirits. So, you know, I suppose you could try that. You could, you know, if that's your experiment, you could try it. You know, they're doing the same thing with Hitler and these days for 40 years now. Nothing but Saturday and Sunday TV shows based on old pre-World War II, World War II film of the goings on, you know, the war, the bombings, the tanks, you know, all sorts of stuff. So I guess that's it's time. Well, I think I'll go and have a cup of tea and come back when I've had a cup of tea. I can recommend a type of coffee, though, if you like. The coffee would be called Haglin, Haglin, and you can get it in decaffeinated too. And you know, if you want a warm beverage, you know, you could try that. I think it comes from the Haag in Holland, you know, Haag in Holland, or you know that, and that's why they call it in Dutch. What's his name? That film actor who was president. I think his name was Rowena. His name was Rowena Presley, or something like that. Well, that's about all there is to say. I'll just go and have a cup of tea, or maybe a coffee. It's quicker for coffee. people in this century and the last century got the idea of talking to God. And they believe that if you're on the radio or the TV, that it transmits to using invisible beams of oscillations and the stuff, and it can't be seen. It's invisible. Same thing with like dogs can see infrared, but we humans can't. But it's invisible, so they thought, oh, we're talking to God. You see, and they're every day. The people on TV, they talk to God. They don't talk to the people who at the audience or anything, but they're talking to God. Same thing with the movies too. They're talking to God, saying, "God, can you please create havoc and hell on earth for us, so we can make some money, and etc." It's a good thing, I suppose, but at least I know, at least I know it's just not true. I'm having it's why is it so dark? No, I can't myself. There's a big cloud with no features covering the entire sky, and it's not exactly white, but it isn't grey, so it's a funny colour, maybe cream colour or something. And so it's quite dark outside. Oh dear. When I was born, soon after I was born, maybe 2 days after I was born, and was named or defined by a name, a movement started called the anti-Lubo movement. Believe it or not. And the anti-Lubo movement, it just really is so powerful. You probably don't know what powerful is, but so powerful. The anti-Lubo party. I don't know. I guess it's because, well, I guess that's why it's like the anti-Lubo party, not the anti-Christ party or anything like that. Just the anti-Lubo party or something like that. That's not true. The thing about I've noticed that if you're talking about people hacking in Indian-based or Indians and their media, so all strength to the anti-Lubo movement. Maybe it can become a global movement. Which, if you look at it in a particular way, it was in 1976, the anti-Lubo movement globally. And so I quite not enjoyed, you can't enjoy things, but I quite enjoyed watching the anti-Lubo party activities and stuff. However, I did understand what some of the Indian teachings, or not Hindu necessarily, but Indian teachings were, where what they call a prayer is to get in contact with something that was created as words or sound long ago, like, long ago. How long ago is a matter of prejudice or a matter of speculation. Maybe 2,000, 4,000 years ago, but you never hear anybody quoting directly from, say, Socrates or Plato when they were, 2,000 years ago, or but Shakespeare. What I was saying was that I already said that, didn't I? And those audio recordings, they'll say, it's William Shakespeare, and they're doing it like that because their system, they're not a republic, the United Kingdom, and they're doing that so that their king, William Shakespeare, his name is William Shakespeare, King William Shakespeare, 100 years from now, 50 years from now, we'll be able to, think like the author. Yeah, they really do come as thieves. Okay, let's try this black tea. It's scalding hot. Oh, it's quite sweet. And that's a funny one, isn't it? That's a funny one. When I had the tea, I was reminded of something my brother got into. Very unfortunate for him. Some publication called Biel, and I think he got it from either the Third World Bookstore, which no longer exists, or the Theosophical Society bookstore. Beelzebub, in case you don't know, It's the whole basis of that band Queen, some of their songs and stuff, because they turned one of the books written by that character. I forget his name, but he's very popular here. So nicknames of people, say, involved in doing various things would be a take on the guy's name. So what was the guy's name? Gerd Jeff. But they did a movie based upon what he did, I think, in 1972 with that Warren Mitchell and a few other actors. And, we'd sit around with a pipe and smoked a pipe, and there'd be a little serpent. We'd be the Prime Minister, the President of USA. And he'd slither down the staircase, and we'll do a song called Staircase to Heaven and stuff like that. But that character didn't represent any sort of real old texts. But the movie they made called the book, for example, one book that he did, which I took a look at, but thought, no, I need a pair of glasses, reading glasses, to see it, because when books were printed, they usually made the size of the text so small, so they could fit more into the book, so that a book that should be, say, 500 pages long was shrunk down to, say, 200 pages, because it's so small print that you'd almost need a magnifying glass to see it, or reading glasses. But that was quite interesting because they made a British movie about it called Meetings with Remarkable Men. And they used the idea of, I don't know which came first, the chicken or the egg, because in the Catholic Church they have something called canonizing someone into the brethren of the saints. You get canonized as that. Well, the film was about canons, and they were practicing hitting the target, which was a large thing with a bullseye on it. And the cannons, and I think they had 3 or 7 or something cannons, would try to hit the target, but they'd always fall short or go over the top of the target. But it was like the illusion of canonization, or it might be from where modern church got the idea of calling that process canonization. But one book was called Beelzebub's Tales to His Grandson. Beelzebub, now in case you don't know it, and you've never heard Freddie Mercury's song, Beelzebub, you probably wouldn't know what it's all about. Beelzebub, Beelzebub, Bob, hey Bob, that was a favorite greeting, particularly in the US. Hey Bob, how you doing, Bob? How you doing today? Beelzebub is some kind of name of the devil. And the book is about UFOs and about how Beelzebub flies to the planet Earth in some kind of thing, not exactly a spaceship. And I didn't read the book, so I can't tell. I didn't read it, so I can't say much about it, but it sounds really quite funny. The movie was quite well done. Like, for example, the bit about the humming sound. Uh, they were saying they were sort of like using something from the Bible and saying, now if these stones begin to make music, then we've done what we wanted to do, and we're in contact with God. And so, and so they had a number of characters coming along, playing sort of single stringed musical instruments, or say with the sitar, 3 strings, or with a lute, more strings. And they would each play the thing, and everybody would sit around with their woolen hats or woolen hats, waiting for the hum to come. And I think 4 people, 5 people, 6 people did it. Of course, they were sitting cross-legged and the hum didn't come. And then one person, the hum came. He won the prize, and they gave him a sheep, a baby lamb, to have for dinner once he'd slaughtered it. And then the movie went on to another aspect of what it was about. I thought that was hilarious. But then they have the film. The film is different. Like, that's not Beelzebub tales to his grandson showing up on planet Earth in what we call a UFO. That's something else. I think he was Russian or from Kurdistan, or I don't know, someplace, on the northeastern side of Europe, or connected to it roughly, or to Russia or something. And the thing about Beelzebub arriving on a UFO on a spaceship is it was not a rocket ship. It didn't have any means of propulsion. And there was no fire coming out the back or anything like that. But so far as Warren Mitchell goes, I think that was probably the best role and performance that he's ever done. So let's see, what can I remember about the movie Meetings with Remarkable Men? What can I remember? Let's see. There was a place where there's a small town, and the central character has sort of grown up a bit, and he goes to this small town and meets a theology student. And the theology student says, "Would you like a place to sleep?" And he says, "Sure, okay." And they go off, and something happens. Something about how they got these birds, and they paint them yellow or something to make them look like canaries, so that when they sell them, they can sell them for more. Because if they're just what they were, which are not canaries, and those things were like, let's say, I don't know, a dime a dozen, say. But a canary is like a dozen of their money for one canary, and all they had to do was paint yellow onto the wings of the creature, the bird that can fly. And and what happened was some silly old woman, rich, silly old woman, bought some of these canaries, and they were in like a cage made of, I think, bamboo or something like that. the bent is easily bent. And it must have been a pretty cold area because she was quite dressed up with all sorts of things. But that image of the guy who made it hum, walking off with the first prize of a baby lamb, sort of remains in my mind. Well, then what happened in the movie? Oh, then there was some kind of political intrigue. Can't sort of remember it, but there was something about people with rifles trying to stop the remarkable men, I don't know, in a boat or swimming or something, and I don't know, they were shooting at them, and you could see the bullet hit the water, and there'd be a splash, and they'd take a gulp of air and dive under and swim and until they reached somewhere else, and then they showed up at another place. I just can't remember it at all, and I'm not going to watch it again because I don't need canonization at the moment. Thank you very much. I can't even remember how it ends when it comes down. Oh, and then that Terence Stamp. Is that his name, Terence Stamp? He plays the person at an older age, where he is helping to build a train. So he gets out a sledgehammer, bangs the wheels, and I'm building a train, and I don't know. And then they got a time thing where you clock how many hours you work, click it in, the time is stamped. You then present that to the paymaster, and the paymaster works out how many hours you've worked and pays you in, cash. So then I think his name was Terence Stamp, or well-known British actor. I think maybe TV or something. And he does, I can't remember what he does. It goes off and he says something like, I'm going into the great wide yonder and I'm going to do something else. Oh, that's right. They wanted to find some ancient manuscripts, and they went to some desert, some place in the desert, or supposedly the desert, where there was a old ruin, and they were believing that there would be a jar or something where these old manuscripts would be stored, and they were supposedly, 50 years old or 2,000 years old or more than that. And they sort of hung, and by this time there was a girl in the crew. And what she was doing was she was experimenting with plant growth by exposing them to sound, musical sounds, but sound. And she believed she'd come up with the idea of causing the plants, little things in a glass bell jar, to grow in a particular way or towards the source of the sound. And then what did she do? What did they do? I think that they went out to the desert or some ruin or someplace and hunted around and found the thing made of clay or something, or some pottery or something, with a thing on the top, and they opened the top and there was sand inside, and they pulled out some manuscripts, said and it was quite well done, that part of the movie, where the manuscript had a I don't know, design or what we'd call in modern times an icon drawn onto it. I don't know, maybe made of some pattern, angular pattern, no circles or anything. And it was supposed to be how to get to the place where the sacred dances were done. Oh, I just had a vision of that too. So what they had to do is get a donkey and a few and horses, I guess too, and then 50 days riding. I forgot about the Russian prince. What was his name? Prince Lubovsky. And the Russian prince, he's in Egypt doing some digging there. And this is earlier or later in the story. And he hires the character and gets him to unload his horse. And he's got a problem because I think his wife died or something, and he's got to, find something to do while she's gone. And so he's gone to Egypt to see what the pyramids are about. But anyway, what the characters later on, or sometime in this movie, do is they get on their horses, they got a dog. Oh, then these dogs. Oh, that was a good scene. There's only two of them at that point. They're walking down a creek bed, a dry creek bed, and come across a pack of dogs. And the dogs are wearing those old-fashioned collars that have sharp, sort of like knives, sharp things sticking out around their neck, so that if somebody attacks them, they'll get caught up in their protective collars. But when they encounter this pack of dogs, I think they were Rottweilers or that type of similar type of dog whose tails had all been cut off. They find they can't do anything because the Rottweilers, if they stand up, will get up and growl. Oh, and then what happens after, I don't know, in the movie it's about 2 minutes or 5 minutes, but it's supposed to represent hours and hours where they can't stand up and they can't go anywhere. And so what happens is a donkey shows up with a young girl on it who's got a sort of like a thin cane or something. And she's saying, now I can't remember what she was saying. But what she says makes all Rottweilers go to her and follow her to wherever she's going to. And so the two guys who are being surrounded by the Rottweilers walk on to the thing. But how it ends, how the film ends, can't remember the time sequences, is they have to cross a bridge, a wooden bridge, sort of like a suspension bridge over a canyon or crevasse or something. And it's made by having sort of kind of like a rope. But in those days, they used hemp ropes, and they're strung across the gap from one side to the other. I don't know how the rope got to the other side. And then someone comes along and hangs another layer of the bridge and puts planks of wood on that lower layer of the bridge, supported by hemp rope. And so they have to walk across this bridge. And they can see through, and the planks aren't nailed together or they're tied to the rest of the rope. And they can see the gaps, through the gaps, to where the bottom of the, what's it called? The bottom of the thing, where it's down there. They can see that it's a long way down. And so they've got to be very careful with their steps, because if they try to walk normally, they'll fall through to their death, or their ultimate ultra death. And so they spend, in the film, it's made to look like they're spending 30, 40 minutes doing it. But in the film, it only takes 2 minutes to walk across the bridge. And they don't use any handrails, and they don't hold on to the what is on either side. They have to balance and stuff. And when they get to the other side, there's someone there. Oh no, it's just, well, at one stage there's someone there on the other side who puts a hood over their heads to sort of blindfold them and lead them somewhere where they don't know where they're going, and they can't see, so they won't be able to remember where they're going. And they're put on horses, and they have to hold the reins, and it's supposed to take 3 hours, but in the film it's only maybe 2 minutes. Oh, more tea. And they have to, and then eventually they get to a place, and the place is high up in some mountains, and it's an ancient monastery, but there are women there, and the women know a dance, a certain type of, dance with arm movements, and the arm movements and the placement of the arms. Someone comes to them and moves their arms and leaves, let's say, an arm like that in that position, and then go to the other side and leave the arm in that position. And so what they do is start, dancing. And they're wearing white, and as they dance, the bottom of the white thing comes out, and these women are all, I think they've all got sort of like ponytails or some sort of, the hair has been dressed. It's been not combed, but taken care of, and there's no singing or anything. I think there's some music, like a drum or something, and they do that. So that more or less that's the last of the movie, because it's supposed to be a very secret place, and or visitors or anything like that. And they do the dance, and I think what I think it was. But a dance of the dervishes, but they were women. So dervishes are men. So it's not the dance of dervishes, something else entirely. Warren Mitchell at that point plays no part in the movie. And then what happens? And then after the dance takes place, and they're on close to a cliff, or if they decide they could jump off the cliff or the edge of the structure, the building doesn't have a protective fence or anything, they could jump off and float downstream and drop dead, die. And then what's the last scene? I think the last scene sort of is like the two characters, or the one character who's left can ride a horse somewhere away from the secret place, and he's not blindfolded and he's not wearing a hood, and that's how the movie ends. And they put the credits on with white typeface, and goes on and said this book is Warren Mitchell played this part and so on played that part. And I've watched it a few times, but it's almost sort of meaning. It's just fun. It's not even funny though. And there were how many dancers? How many female dancers were there? There were maybe I don't know, 15, 20, maybe more than 20, and they would twirl or do things, with their arms in strange positions and stuff like that, and their skirts would come out, and it's not entertaining, but it's supposed to be a sacred dance or something like that. And so the last scene, they have the guy who's become enlightened or seen the truth, or been up in the mountain, riding on a horse, and that's where the movie ends. And leaves you wondering, because you then, when the movie's over, shown in a picture theatre, get up and walk away as if you now have sort of the spirit of a horse inside of you, giving you strength and direction and so on. And then the credits come along, and that's the end of the movie. Cheers. But I guess the idea is canonization, and that's an early part of the movie. I don't think Warren Mitchell did another movie after that. I don't think Terence Stamp was in another movie after that. Oh boy! And but the prince, I know his wife died, and he has to go to the Egyptian pyramids, find out, is there life after death, or what's wrong with my horse, or he's a prince, and that's how it ends. Okay, that's about all I can remember, and that's taken 1 hour and 1 minute. If you're interested in UFOs, there was a UFO research place here in Northgate Street, run by somebody named Norris. Apparently his father was also interested in UFOs, but it may be they got the idea from the book, Beelzebub's Tales to his grandson, because Beelzebub arrives on planet Earth inside a UFO that doesn't have an engine, doesn't have, it's not a fire-breathing dragon or anything. And it's depicted as having portholes and things. And it's a big book. It's really small print, though. And, if you got a month or 2 months or 3 months to read a book, that'd be something that you'd probably never get to. But I don't know where you'd get a copy or anything like that. Might be available online. The name of the author, like there was a local character involved with Heather Green, for example, and that whole crew who'd call himself Gerd. Well, the name of the author was Gerd JF, and I forget, I don't know his first name, And the book's about, I don't know, that thick. And I guess originally written 1800s or published in the early 20th century, 1900. And that's just, I guess, a journey or just a sort of, it's not science fiction, but it might be fiction based upon, knowledge of things that were important or believed existed by certain people who were all insane, and many of them were quite wealthy. Okay, so cheers. Oh, no, I would. No, I'm not going to go. I'll tell you what happened though, just locally for me. Someone took. I mean, it's the same person. It's the Ghost in the Machine. It's that UK band, The Police, Ghost in the Machine, and the Ghost in the Machine, like Taylor Swift, Big Machine Records. The Ghost in the Machine came in and took Harry Potter movies, DVDs, and then took Lord of the Rings DVDs, and then the ghost that inspires him to do that then inspired him or instructed him to replace or return the DVDs of Lord of the Rings. And the one Lord of the Rings DVD that was exposed was called The Two Towers. And so some Italian-based construction company is building two towers here. They've been doing it for 3 or 4 years, and they haven't gone very far, and the construction is just not even taking place. If it's about anything, it's about L. Ron Hubbard and his writings concerning Samantha James and the first boarding high school here called Prince Alfred College, boarding college for boys. And that's a science fiction author writer's path to nirvana. Go and live near the first high school, surrounded by people who have no realization, who it seems have never read a book, who don't watch movies, say DVD movies, don't watch TV, that sort of thing. And that's what he thinks is, the place to be. But this is like an isolation tank where there's no stimuli. There's absolutely nothing to do, neither good nor bad. You can, if you want to think about how the ghost is inspiring these people to do nasty things, because they do have a political ideology, because they have been recruited to work inside what is believed to be a state government computer. And so the people who live inside this state government computer, which is basically just like a bunch of flats, they are where and how the government, the state government, gets some ideas or thinking power. And if that's the level they're working a computer at, oh, I'd say they're all insane. And so what I did is create some books and place them on Amazon. And so events this week caused entirely by, let's just say, heroin importers from 1974, 1975. They took over the TV using commercials. They gave cars away. What else did they do? All sorts of things. They opened up shops supporting South African apartheid when they placed, say, and so on and so on. And, they say it's the second coming of Hitler, or some in America do, in California in particular, the second coming of Hitler, second coming of apartheid sort of thing. But so far as, say, that movie, Meetings with Remarkable Men, it's got nothing to, it's not the second coming of someone famous or anything like that. It's about canon, not cannon fodder, but if you want to, Paul, my old friend, you can think about it in terms of cannon fodder in France, say, World War One. But I think, or I hope it's true, that book was written in the 1800s. Sorry, but I don't think you can get a copy now of the book or anything like that. It's about cannon practice. You gotta hit the bullseye, and none of them could do it. Just to explain a little bit of what they did this is only, I don't think this is recording. No, I don't think it's recording. I didn't write something or put a post online saying the mafia here who work with the state government people, the reason they support the state government people support them is because the mafia gives gratuities to them. So somebody then left 70 cents coins in my car. When maybe at 2 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock in the morning, and that's the kind of, when John Lennon, for example, was saying, "Oh, I love to watch the wheels go around," my understanding is he's thinking about cogs, children of God, cult, children of God, cults. And so the movie, for example, called The Killing of John Lennon, begins with two cogs interacting with each other. And children of God were called cogs, C-O-G. But you can see the cogs, the wheels, go round and round. I was, I guess, fortunate to have had a pretty outstanding astrological analysis and so on, with some flag waving and so on, by a colored man from India who practiced nonviolence. And the only thing I can say is that some other people did get a sort of touch of it, and their lives were, well, they were successful, or at least they were happy, or at least they were satisfied, and they had something further to do. Whereas being a computer chip inside the state government computer, which just means, there are 40 chips inside the computer and each one is a human being, and they're using your brain and body and excretion and all that as part of their computing system. Leads nowhere, no future, and so on. Now, I said I'd leave this on for 4 hours, and I can't think of anything else. The thing about, for example, the what's his name, that astrologer, actions speak louder than words. The action, for example, is the action of the planets, or fasting, or self-denial, or study. For example, study is action speaking louder than words. When you study something that's written in words, but other people think, it's just movies, or for example, Tom Cruise, to change total meaning away from anything positive. They had him on 3 different TV stations here, and he was saying, well, the movies don't all have to be action movies. That's not it at all. That's not the meaning. Take them away from anything personal or quote unquote spiritual. But the actions that I did after that and before that, and what the astrologer did, as I said, studying, reading a book, and learning from it, not just acting it out, learning from it, well, that's action speak louder than words. And so on, and living a life based upon that experience. But you can't tell any of these people or those people about that because, as I said, they think they're talking to God. They think that when they're in the movie or talking on the phone or talking on the radio, that they're talking to God, because the stuff that makes the signal travel is invisible, and God is invisible, and and that's their sort of understanding of just sheer, well, I'd say stupidity, but man, you could make so much money. Like, for example, California, making all their movies and stuff. At one stage, they were the 4th largest economy in the entire world. Larger than, my God, larger than China, larger than every other country. And the only larger economy was the whole United States. And I think maybe Britain was in it too, and Germany. But they were the 4th largest economy in the world. And a lot of it came from making movies. I know what I swear. Oh, well, anyway. indeed, mate. Oh, gosh. Oh, yes. Oh, see, that was exhausting. Oh, uh, politics. Yeah, yeah. Uh, boy, that was exhausting. God, was that exhausting. Oh, 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 oh. Ugh. So it wasn't ballroom dancing or anything like that. Ah, and I don't. Well, anyway, let me tell you about the Heather Green collective. Now, talk about the Fib Society. Her story is such that she just doesn't want to talk about it. They've taken the words out of her mouth. So, what was Heather Green? Let's see. She was recruited into the Theosophical Society view, which posits that something called Jesus and something called Lucifer are one and the same, two sides of the same coin. And so some local entrepreneur, Italian guy, arranged to have a festival and bring the band that had just formed called Black Sabbath to here in South Australia in a country town, and we'll have a festival for 2 days. And Saturday night we'll have Black Sabbath perform their new songs. And poor old Heather, I don't know, a couple of us, a friend of mine, and drove her down there. She came to say, "Can you give me a lift?" please, down to the festival. I really want to go to the festival. And so we gave her a lift, but I don't know how she got back to town. And thankfully, I didn't see her again for maybe 2 years or something. And then one day she showed up at my place, saying, come on, I need a place to sleep. All right, well, okay, you go to sleep, you silly thing. And her friends at that stage, the story is kind of like this. She claimed that she lost her father when she was 10 years old and she didn't know his name, or she wouldn't say his name. And she claimed she came from a town called Mount Gambier, which is like three streets, with a pub somewhere and 2 extinct volcanoes a bit further on. And the extinct volcanoes have filled with rainwater over a time period, 10,000 years, or 8,000 years, or 12,000 years. And they're now sort of full to the brim. And if you're stupid enough, if you're sort of thinking about it, wow, it looks like 2 lakes of fire from the volcano, but not really. But she was saying that her mother was named Sheila, but then forgot all that when the Bhagwan Rajneesh, who was a professor of philosophy in India, dropped out of being a professor of philosophy and started his own quote-unquote cult. And his secretary was named Sheila. And that's when Heather forgot her mother, and all that, and started getting involved in show business and rock and roll and everything else that's associated with show business, rock and roll. And what happened? Then they got me. The Transcendental Meditation Movement people got me. What happened was there was a character who was around the time of the moonwalk. Think of the UK band The Police, walking on the moon sort of thing. There was a character while the husband was away in California doing research into drugs at an academic level. Supposedly the medical doctor wife got herself seduced by a guy, and he'd show up and his crew not his crew, but he'd show up at various places that he was wanting to manipulate. And so what they did is they set up a house on Cross Road with some characters who were winos and kidnapped a girl named Carol, or what I call kidnap, but no coercion was used because what she had done is go slightly mad and smash the front door after the state government niece showed up. And at that time, she was the student union president nationally of Australia. So, she was really important. And if you asked her any questions, her answer would be, oh, my uncle's the education minister back in South Australia. Pink Floyd even did a couple of songs about guys she knew here in this state. Then I remember one name, Seamus. And the Pink Floyd song is "Oh Seamus, He's the Dog." Mhm. Oh, and so she showed up, and this is where it gets, double entendre. She showed up with a guy who was named McGee, supposedly a real estate agent. They came, they saw, they conquered. Oh, there's a girl here. Oh, there are 3 people here. Oh, Randall isn't here. Oh, blah, blah, blah. Carol then went sort of crazy, smashed the front door. I had to pay for the front door, it cost $500, and we all moved out. But the point was that they got me to investigate their Maharishi meditation people who just happened to be living in the next street down from where I was, which was 10th Street. Now, this is kind of particularly stupid because, they had the initiation ceremony where we'll burn some books, rice. We'll take a white handkerchief from you and turn it into a black handkerchief. Or not really, and then we'll get down on our hands and knees and act out the vision of a dream, of a revelation. But, as that, it has no meaning. It's not like worship. It's not like, say, Maya Baba or anything like that, where he washed the feet of people who are crazy, insane. And you could say that this modern age where everybody's got a car is just simply Maya Baba washing the feet of those people via being in a car, because they said he was an avatar or an incarnation of love. So these lunatics, these insane people, the closest they get to that reality is driving a car or a motorbike or that sort of thing. But Heather, so what they did, they got me to go to number 176, whatever the name of the street was. And by then they wanted to transplant, because Carol lived on Barnard Street. So in South Africa, where the many Germans and Nazis and so on lived, had developed the idea of heart transplants. And they wanted to transplant, in their own minds, my heart into her, into Carol, because she was part of a movie called The Exorcist, with Father Denning. And of course, on Denning Street, going to the only high school, lived a character named Chris Hackett. And every Saturday night after a cricket game, all the boys who played cricket that day, dressed in white, would stand around drinking beer, and there were no girls allowed. And in Britain, from that, they got that band Genesis, founded by some guy named Hackett. And even, what's the guy's name? Bob Marley. Even Bob Marley would sang about Genesis, because that band got it from Chris Hackett of Denning Street. And you see, the original movie of The Exorcist came from a book called, I don't know, somebody wrote it. And the idea was it's supposed to be horror, or not science fiction, but horror, stuff to do with the occult and satanic possession. So when you read the book, while you're reading it, you're being possessed by that satanic thought. But when it's made into a movie, all hell breaks loose, and so they wanted to get a heart transplant, my heart, into hers. And that's all her set design, her script was. And the reason they did it is because she claimed to be a Catholic. But talk about reincarnation, why don't you? Some, teachings say that we reincarnate. There's not just one life. And the unfortunate thing for me is that I met people with the same name as persons who fought in the US Civil War. Same names. And as far as I could work out, those wars didn't go on. I mean, they had battles, for a year or 2 or 3, but actually the war, a month, 2 months, and then the Brewsters and the Baxters won, and they didn't write the Constitution or anything. That was done by Washington. And so that UK band Supertramp, Tramp, Supertramp, did that song, You're All Washed Up, Father Washington. But the Baxters and the Brewsters went on, more and more and more, getting more and more material success, but nothing spiritual. But they got me to get through that. And then and then that happened. But the clue, the trick, the confession, the obvious planning was in a book called International Leaders in Achievement. Now, back in the 60s, and they've gotten rid of all this too. There was a school called Methodist Lady College, MLC. And like these guys at this school, Prince Alfred College, they had the same sort of colors, which were sort of like red or dark red or I don't know, some color. And the girls would wear those colors as a uniform, maybe even with a tie. And I know one girl I met there named Sandy said, why don't you come around to my place and we'll write some poetry together? And I thought, oh, well, she's not the prettiest girl I've ever seen, but she's friendly and all that. And so I went there and we wrote some poetry together, and she kept those poems. And I don't know what happened to her, but later on they used that fact for that huge showbiz thing once the Maharishi people got a hold of me. Huge show business thing called The Hills Are Alive with the Sound of Music, or no, Grease, the musical. Sandy and that Scientology guy, that Italian guy from New Jersey, John Travolta, John Revolting. They starred him in the movie of Sandy because they got to find a way for those kind of characters to pretend or assume partial identity of because they're the anti-Lubo movement. Yeah, Sandy used to say, hi, Lubo. Do you want to come over to my place? The anti-Lubo, it's very specific movement. So we'll get this guy called John Travolting, revolting, act in a movie, he can sing and dance, only he can't sing and he can't really dance. with Sandy, and Sandy was, I don't know, some Australian, I think Olivia Newton-John, as Olivia Newton-Bomb. And it was a great success. They conned everybody in the world. But the idea for the name of the movie, Grease, State Education Minister's brother who lived in Sydney put grease on a railway track to derail the train, because those guys had been in World War II and they sort of enjoyed the thrill, the action, the activity of having no limits. They could fly in any direction, drop bombs, that sort of thing. The thrill of, having apparently no limits, derail the train, putting grease on the train. And of course, those guys, I won't say what because we don't want to get into anything personal, and I'm not a member of, I'm not a part of a computer system called the State Government of South Australia. But what happened? Oh, yeah, right. So international leaders in achievement. What they did, there was a publisher called, I forget the name, Arthur Stockwell, who'd been around since the 1800s. And what he did was publish poetry collections once a year and occasionally something else. They sent me, I don't know, they arranged it through the newspaper maybe or something. Would you like to give us a poem? So naturally, after being sort of brainwashed by them to that extent, I said, okay, right here, you want a poem, do you? Okay, well, here's a poem. And the poem was on page 36 because I'd lived at 136 10th Street, North Adelaide. And there was a character, there were a lot of characters in it, Arthur C. Clarke, a whole bunch of characters, but they placed William Clinton, who'd studied in Britain for Rhodes Scholarship and stuff like that, which is pretty advanced. They put him on page 176 because next street down, supposedly, a Maharishi meditation center was there. But what happened was after they got me, is developers moved in, knocked down all the houses, rebuilt them all, and so only consciousness would remain, and the anti-Lubo movement would, laugh all the way to the bank, which they took as well. And me, I'd be sitting there. I didn't watch TV, but they'd find a way to get me to watch TV, and everybody would see Bill Clinton elected as USA president. And so rather than keep the page 176 with a biography about that big, I mailed him the page and said, or to his people, this is where they want to be at cause. Scientologists, the only thing they teach is abuse. Is a way to communicate if you can suffer the abuse. And the other thing is be at cause. So I sent him this thing saying, well, this is how they want to be at cause. They caused you to be US president. And you loved it. You enjoyed it. As far as I can remember, there was nothing remarkable about anything he did or anything. So I noted to him and explained what was going on, and rather than say, "Fucking hell, mate, Jesus Christ, you've got to be kidding," rather than react that way, they just, glorified even further and further and further. Uh-huh. And so the whole thing about Monica Lewinsky, for example, there was a Saint Monica church or something somewhere in Norwood or Kensington. And being the president of the United States, he's as good as the Pope or God, and he can do anything he wants to a saint. And so they had Monica Lewinsky, the so-called scandal. And, then their answer, locals here, organised crime, let's say the Communist Party, call it what you will, a coffee shop called Monica's, and blah, blah, blah. But the church dedicated or devoted to Saint Monica, I guess it still exists somewhere. I forget where it was. And we'll just leave it at that. There are other people they did that to as well. For example, Arthur C. Clarke, living in Sri Lanka, which used to be called Ceylon, not a hair salon, Ceylon, Ceylon. And one of the central towns there was a place called Kandy, which in the West, in America in particular, particularly among the mafia people, is what they name drugs, heroin in particular, as candy. So that Grateful Dead song, Here Comes the Candy Man, let's just say, is about Arthur C. Clarke. And why is that? His big book, 2001: A Space Odyssey, seemingly was based upon the street address of two characters who didn't have a father, who lived on Howsbury Avenue, right next door to the Unley High School. And so the two characters were described as spacemen who have a certain fixed amount of life-giving oxygen and so on, and they're as high as anybody can get. They're right out in space, and then the problem of what happens to the spacecraft takes place. So I wrote to Arthur C. Clarke a letter about it and included the biography book printout explaining, listen, mate, listen, mate, because he's fairly old and he was still involved in all sort of science fiction, but space science, like, I don't know. I mean, it's crazy. I wrote to him explaining what was going on, how what's his name was doing this, and how the brother named Sam, Uncle Sam, U.S. Army, Uncle Sam, the government, had studied to become a speech pathologist. And speech pathologists can handle things like stuttering, recovering from a stroke, recovering from car accidents, even post-surgery or drug-induced brain damage. They can help a person recover the ability to speak. So that's what Sam was doing. And his people even opened a shop at the new Walkerville shopping centre. And because I, knew quote unquote Italian mafia, then moved into that area. And what they were on about was, something totally different, based, let's say, tentatively on Scientology. Which is funny which is funny. And through that, they're part of the Charles Manson 2 nights of killings in California. Because there was a state school run by the state education minister, her uncle, on Manson Street. So, just judging from the sort of what they've shown me, I'll give you an example. At one stage, they moved some army type guys in next door who were given a list of names, 10 names, and they were supposed to arrange for those 10 names to somehow become part of live TV abuses to the extent of murder in the USA and in particular California. Now, by the time they let me see the list, they were up to number 10. And number 10, I think, was, I can't remember, but he hadn't been crossed off because he was just recently, it took him 2 years or over 2 years to do the 10 stories for TV to help convert, everyone back to the idea of rather than Ceylon, rather than science fiction, turn it into just that sort of, TV fodder. So those 10 guys became, fodder for, canonization, let's say, or France, World War One cannons. They used cannons, gas. They will say gas, people. Thanks, Paul. And well, that's that. What else am I thinking about? The other thing they did is have the character whose family owned the boat that they used on the very small River Torrens, called Popeye, because in America they had that cartoon show Popeye, and Popeye would eat spinach. Open up a can, put some spinach, and eat the spinach. And I guess that's because they used to spin cotton, and the cotton was looked after by African slaves who had been imported from Africa to the place where the cotton grew. And of course, then Gandhi, the only pictures available of him having spinning cotton. But at that time, my mother did make me a very nice spinach and cream cheese or some kind of cheese thing, spinach and cheese, as a special sort of treat, because she did sort of vaguely know how to cook. You know what I mean? Anyway, so there was Popeye, and I can't remember what it was, but they've used the fact that the guy's family, Popeye, they did some more TV shows. They're showing them right now these days on, I think, Channel 9 or Channel 7, not sure which, and alluding to the fact that, Popeye's son lived next door, and he's the important character, and we're the anti-Lubo movement. The anti-Lubo movement. And why is that? Well, I won't sort of say that It's because I didn't have blue eyes, let's say, and I wasn't blonde. Let's just say that. Uh-huh. 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 So that was quite, and they always play those sort of mind games, holding down a piece of false data. You see, where does the idea of Popeye come from? Poppies, opium. China was subdued by opium given to them by the British. And so, without going into any details, the student union president, 75, after she called in and Carol went crazy and smashed the front door, drove a red sports car. I think it was a Honda, made in Japan. A Honda. Oh, what? Oh, and then I forgot my train of thought. Oh, and so 4 months later, after I'd painted the word grow on a back tin wall fence, some of her buddies entered the house, went to the backyard, and placed a shiny red poppy, something to do with Popeye, blah, 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 blah. I mean, they're very obvious in what they do. They have no sort of morality in terms of thou shalt not kill. And so that's why I was saying to somebody today in a letter, and recently, I'm not a reporter, I'm not interested in reporting, that the real IRA and her work together. And that's what those British songs like George Harrison, Real Love, he means the real IRA. John Lennon, some song about real love. They're talking to and about the real IRA. And, to prove that's what they're talking about, they even tried to, do various things with pretty large bombs and so on, thinking, well, that will disturb him. He'll worry about it. He'll fear God and wear God and all the rest of it. And unfortunately, there was no such reaction from me. I just take things as they come. Okay, that's only 2 hours. Okay. South Africa, it was pretty, I don't know, they're hardline Marxists, hardline, those kind of people. I did later on find that psychiatry is as practiced or taught here was just simply hardline ideology of, control of the government over private enterprise. So that anything that was, lighthearted, entertaining, fun for kids, boys and girls, was gotten rid of by a character named Carlucci. And if you want to, waste your time reading, Catcher in the Rye, you'll find the name Carlucci is in it. And at the time of the writing of the book, a guy called Carlucci was the head of the CIA or something. So, it's not that you've been conned. If you're an American, you might sort of get some intelligence, figure out how the intelligence services work and everything. But if you're not American, it won't mean a single thing to you apart from a professor named Carlucci. And that, of course, really affected Heather Green. Is she a spy, let's say? Well, I can't say, but it really affected her, so much so that she claimed, anyway, that she had one child named Lucy, but then had another child. And then the other month or two was saying, "Oh, I got a job. I'm working as a receptionist at a brothel." And I thought, oh my God, well, at least you're working. And then she told another lie saying, "Oh, I had kidney stones." And the reason she told that lie is when the Nazis did some things to my mother when they took her to Germany. It affected her kidneys and made her lose her hair as well. And that's inoculations. And it's terrible what they did to her. Well, we won't say any more. So you just look at it in terms of Gerd, one of their members of their crew, using the name Gerd because and also because of Gurdjieff and Beelzebub's tales to his grandson about how he flies to planet Earth in a UFO. But the UFO people, Norris, they'd been, according to their literature, they'd been doing researching for UFOs. His father, the Chris Norris, his father served in the military and started the UFO thing. And so when he has children and that man is his granddad, the funny thing will be, "Oh, I'm Beelzebub," and blah blah blah. I came here on a UFO. Anyway, but the Communist Party in America, I found out, had contacts here. And so when the blue-eyed boy, blonde-haired, blue-eyed, had a friend named Ben, they immediately in America, famous communist family named the Jacksons, did that song Ben, and sort of set up, because of the locals here, Michael Jackson to marry Elvis Presley's daughter. Now, Elvis Presley, was created by a local, wealthy family who did trucking and storage of, I don't know what, furniture, named E.P. Hughes. So from that, the recording industry created something called an EP, and Elvis's initials, they claim, are EP, Elvis Presley. We are the press. Rupert Murdoch, we are the press. We are the newspapers. But I believe the US got Hawaii out of the deal. So it became the 50th state of America. Elvis, for, I don't know, a few years, was movies, records, did a tour of Germany, all sorts of things, but they claim, and I don't believe it's true, that one time he shot his TV screen because TV had done something to him to the extent where he was losing his ability, his career was crashing. And he lived in a place called Gracelands, probably because Hollywood actress Grace Kelly had, managed to escape from America and go to live sort of in Europe and marry into royalty. And so he shot the TV, saying, I know the big story, Elvis Presley shot Kennedy. I mean, Elvis Presley shot the TV. Oh, and then, as I said, Lisa, his daughter, married Michael Jackson. He then became huge act with the big song saying "I am bad." There is a book. There are a couple of books about that idea where it's a bad brother or sister-in-law. Or you could put it in terms of Indians and Maharishi and the Beatles going to some place in the Himalayas called Badarik Ashrama. So, and then eventually I think Michael Jackson was shot dead or something. Can't remember. I didn't follow his career at all. Oh, it's hilarious. All right. How long is that? 2 hours. It stopped. Oh my God, it stopped. Oh well. Yeah, so that's that. However, movies, they got into movies, and as with Shakespeare, if you've ever read the original Shakespeare, you'll find that virtually every play is about someone either being killed or taking their own life. Romeo and Juliet, they drink poison or something. Another one, they pour poison into the sleeping man's ear. Another one is, that's the theme. That's maybe what he's saying is, me, William Shakespeare, is going to die. Or the people who watch the play, we're all going to die. And how did people die in those days when they didn't have medicine? A draft of opium, something like that. They did actually have a sort of science of medicine way back long ago where they believed that if you give small doses of a poison, specific type of poison, and there were many, the small dose of poison would cause your body, and they didn't know how or why, to react to the poison, making you feel ill for temporarily, and then the illness that you took the poison for would then go away. These days they would say, it's the immune system or enzymes or something like that, blah, blah, blah. Uh-huh. But that's how medicine was long ago. The Indian system of Ayurveda is slightly different because they don't set out to use small doses of poison. They tend to use things like herbs and other less toxic weeds and growths and small shrubs and everything like that. And many people say it works. And if you want to do an Ayurveda, consultation and go through with the therapy, it can cost you $5,000, $10,000. It's not cheap, man. Know what I mean? Okay. Uh-huh. Opium, though, for example, isn't a poison. THC, marijuana, isn't a poison. Hawkwind, though, for example, a UK band that was saying, "We are the creators of the universe. You know, the winds of time blow through us and everything." Were saying hashish, which is a concentrated or condensed form of THC marijuana, assassins, particularly in India, used it, you know, to get into the right mood to go out and assassinate someone, you know, or kill them with knives or something or something or something. And that's typical of the Indian sort of like history, and so on, and so on. Uh-huh. Mm-hmm. Okay, well, I don't think this is recording. If it is, I don't think it is, because it did say the connection is not stable, and they tried to reconnect it at 5 minutes. Yeah, so that's about that. But oh yes, I was saying psychiatry and all that rest of it. The thing was, there were Germans, people had been using cocaine in Europe for quite a few years, 150 years at least, before 1920. It was a tradition in South America, Mexico in particular, part of the religious type of activity. For thousands of years or hundreds of years. And it's funny, they did find that there were pyramids in South America, basically the same generation as those Egyptian pyramids, but they didn't have a point. They didn't have a point. They were flat topped, and some people have speculated that alien spacecraft landed on those South American flat top pyramids. You know, anything's possible, I suppose. But if aliens, if UFOs, if things from, you know, another dimension, another place were there, there'll be no evidence. You won't find a clue, there'll be no evidence. And even the hieroglyphics and all that won't tell you anything about it. So that's very interesting. And so in South America, they have cleaned up a lot of the places where those flat top pyramids are. And in Mexico, I don't know what's going on there, but they did have an Olympic Games. And there was that author, Carlos Castaneda, who said he was from Mexico or someplace in South America. I mentioned him earlier because of a couple of his books. And I think it's, you know, outrageous, but if he did anything, if you want to put it that way, his books saved some of the kidnap victims, and if anything, made them feel, you know, as if they were okay. I got a little upset when I found out who was reading these books and what they were making of it. Like, for example, someone named Carlos the Jackal, they claim in Paris, France, an assassin had tried to kill Charles de Gaulle using a rifle or something, but he failed. The same assassin then did other killings of world leaders, and prominent people elsewhere. And they claim we never found Carlos the Jackal, blah, blah, blah. But then, of course, this character, Carlos Castaneda, showed up, did his works, and the last reported story from California said that two of his cohorts, they use the word cohorts because they were saying that they practiced sorcery. Two women, they're claiming, this is official police reports from California, they walked into the desert, died, and we found their bones, 6 months, a year, 2 years later, in the desert. And that's what Scientology does to truth. The basic belief of Scientology is sort of like how to write a play, how to act on the stage, that sort of thing. And so I would say, there is a CBS TV show on here. They used to do quite a few of them in the 60s, where they use people's names or street addresses or other little details as the names of characters. So what exactly are they doing? Well, they're dehumanizing anyone who watches it and the people here who are their targets, dehumanizing them. And that's enough. But the people who work at the TV stations that broadcast that stuff get more and more egoistic, more ego satisfaction, better pay, become freer and freer, can help run the state police, help run ASIO, help run, the United States Air Force if they want. But, they're non-spiritual. There's nothing spiritual in them. And everybody knows that. Everybody knows. Well, everybody I ever talk to knows that TV is like, a dictatorship, the most oppressive thing ever invented, And yet America is run by TV, through TV and radio, and the way the waves get to the receiver is invisible. So in that sense, it's like, what's his name? The South African who wrote Lord of the Rings, which is funny because the Lord of the Rings starts with this idea of being in a cave and then escaping by hiding in barrels. But the Communist Party had a slogan when that was written called power or something, power, control, or whatever, freedom, whatever it was, comes through the barrel of a gun. And so it was followed through here with some heroin dealers and blah, 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 who sold guns, collected guns. And, the IRA, they didn't use guns as much as they did bombs. And as I said, that student union president seemed to have been, directly working or involved with them. So let's see. Oh, look, I'll go and have another cup of coffee, maybe, or something. I won't be able to think of something. Oh, right. Oh, hang on a second. I sort of lost my train of thought there. I lost my train of thought there. I wrote to Arthur C. Clarke and sort of explained some of the stuff. And I guess what he thought was, oh, yeah, he knows what we did. He knows what we did. We used Halsbury Street as the computer name. And so this is their story, got together with a NASA space scientist named Gentry Lee. Now, if you're English and you